Welcome to the debate. Think about the last time you picked up your phone. Did you consciously decide to check it, or did your hand just sort of move?
I mean, for most of us, it feels like a total reflex at this point.
Exactly. But what if I told you that in the 400 milliseconds before you reached for that screen, a global algorithmic infrastructure had already predicted you would do it?
Right.
And not just predicted it, but queued up exactly what you'd see to keep you looking. You know, we usually think of global infrastructure as things we can physically touch, like concrete highways winding through Mexico City or massive power grids lighting up Tokyo.
Yeah, things that are visible, physical.
Right, and crucially, you choose when to step onto them.
Right. You know when you're paying a toll. You know exactly where the off-ramp is.
Exactly. But right now, we are all standing on a completely different kind of infrastructure, a planetary-scale, totally invisible algorithmic architecture. It amasses these vast oceans of data to build staggeringly detailed profiles on billions of people. I mean, it analyzes everything, your location history, the exact millisecond you pause on an image, the erratic trajectories of your mouse.
Even biometric signals, right? Like heart rate variability.
Spot on. And that reality forces us to ask a fundamental question. Does this invisible algorithmic architecture act as an empowering tool that removes friction and, optimizes human potential? Or does it engineer our choices, exploit our cognitive biases, and fundamentally erode human autonomy? I will be arguing that AI's predictive machinery is actually the ultimate responsive tool, mirroring our digital soul to empower users and optimize global systems.
And I will argue that AI goes far beyond mere prediction to active manipulation. It acts as an invisible hand that commodifies our attention and, quite frankly, systematically subverts our free will.
So to lay out my position clearly from the start, I really believe AI empowers humanity through unprecedented personalization and efficiency. By synthesizing explicit signals and implicit cues, it creates a frictionless world.
But what does frictionless actually mean in practice?
Well, for instance, when an algorithm notices erratic mouse trajectories in an Istanbul e-commerce market, it infers budget hesitation and adjusts options accordingly. Or consider agricultural AI, using satellite data to advise Kenyan farmers on optimal crop rotations.
Okay, but those are very specific use cases.
True, but they scale. Through these sophisticated mathematical models, AI simply aligns the physical and digital world with our authentic preferences. It boosts global innovation and personal utility on a massive scale.
I come at it from a completely different way. AI is fundamentally an engine of behavioral determinism.
Determinism? That's a strong word.
It is, but it's accurate. It doesn't just anticipate what we want, it engineers our environment to ensure specific, highly profitable outcomes. By exploiting deeply ingrained cognitive biases and, deploying continuous reinforcement learning, AI molds us into predictable nodes.
Predictable nodes? I mean,
just to finish the thought, when eye tracking software maps your pupil dilation to a luxury car in a Dubai showroom, or when gaming apps in South Korea deploy Skinnerbox variable rewards to artificially prolong your session, that technology isn't serving you. It is stripping your agency to maximize corporate profit and operational efficiency.
let's actually dig into the mechanics of that personalization, because I think jumping straight to manipulation misunderstands how these models function under the hood. Personalization is a reflection of human desire. Think about the recommendation systems powering global e-commerce. They use techniques like collaborative filtering and matrix factorization.
Let's explain what that actually means for the person listening, though.
Sure. Imagine a massive, invisible grid. On one side are millions of products. On the other side are millions of people. Matrix factorization is the AI's way of finding hidden relationships between those two things.
Right.
It cross-references your past browsing history, the local weather data, and the purchases of people mathematically similar to you. So if you are shopping for running shoes in the humid climate of Sao Paulo, the AI might suggest a very specific type of moisture-wicking sock.
And you're saying that's just purely helpful?
Exactly. It isn't trying to trick you. It suggests the sock because it provides genuine contextual value based on the exact environment you are standing in. The best analogy I can offer is a hyper-observant concierge. It learns your preferences, like bringing you an iced drink in the summer heat of Beijing or automatically prioritizing a high-value email from your boss, simply to make your life easier.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that. Let me tell you why.
Go ahead.
Calling this massive surveillance architecture a friendly concierge masks the reality of what's happening. A concierge works for you. These algorithms work for the platforms. And to understand the difference, we have to look at the psychology of how it operates. Let's take content consumption.
Okay.
AI streaming platforms aren't just trying to find a movie you'll like through matrix factorization. They are aggressively analyzing what's called a drop-off curve.
Meaning the exact second a viewer gets bored and clicks away.
Precisely. They have mathematically mapped the American audience's patience. They literally time narrative cliffhangers in shows to hit the 80% attention threshold of the audience.
Wait, really? The 80% mark specifically?
Yes, to trap viewers in continuous dopamine loops. Dopamine isn't just about pleasure, it's about the anticipation of a reward. By cutting the scene right before the psychological payoff, the algorithm triggers a mild stress response in your brain, forcing you to let the next episode autoplay to get relief.
Wow.
That is not convenience, it is the monetization of your biological focus. And we can measure the collateral damage here. Global attention spans have actively shrunk from 12 seconds in the year 2000 to just 8 seconds today. We are being rewired. That isn't a concierge, that is an architect of addiction.
I hear you, and the dopamine loop mechanic in entertainment is incredibly potent. I won't deny that. But you're focusing entirely on the entertainment and advertising sector, where the explicit goal is screen time. Let's pivot to how these exact same behavioral mechanisms, these exact same nudges, are applied to human health and safety in the physical world.
The mechanism is the same, though, whether it's an app or a steering wheel.
But the outcome changes the moral math entirely. Consider a health app that uses gamification to nudge a sedentary office worker in Dubai. It draws from global benchmarks, tracks their step count, and gently prods them to take a brisk walk.
By gamifying their health.
Right. Perhaps giving them a digital reward when they match the activity levels of users in Sydney. Or think about autonomous vehicles in Singapore. They use subtle haptic feedback, a slight vibration in the steering wheel or a tightening of the seatbelt, to encourage safer driving habits over time.
Right, the physical nudges.
Yeah, the AI recognizes an erratic lane change and physically nudges you to focus. Isn't that a net positive use of behavioral science? I mean, why is a nudge inherently a loss of autonomy if the outcome objectively increases that person's safety and longevity?
It's a compelling argument, but we have to look at how those individual nudges scale up into systemic determinism. It's easy to praise a steering wheel vibration, but the danger of these behavioral nudges at scale is that they enforce rigid, inescapable structures.
Inescapable? How so?
The predictive models you're praising don't just suggest a walk. They dictate the trajectory of people's lives based on historical vulnerabilities.
Give me an example of how a nudge becomes a trajectory.
Take real-time commerce and dynamic routing. Ride-hailing apps in Mexico City dynamically search their prices, but they aren't just looking at generic supply and demand.
Right, they look at traffic, weather.
No, they look at your specific personal price sensitivity based on your past ride cancellations. They know exactly how much you are willing to pay when your phone battery's at 5%, or when it's raining, or when you're leaving a specific neighborhood at 2 a.m.
Oh, wow. So it's highly individualized.
Exactly. The algorithm calculates your maximum threshold for financial pain before you close the app, and it charges you exactly that amount. You say it's optimization, but when a system uses your personal historical data to extract the maximum possible capital from you in a moment of vulnerability, that isn't a nudge. That is algorithmic extortion.
You say it's extortion, but I look at that exact same data and see a system trying to find an incredibly complex equilibrium. To make a city of 20 million people function, you need systems that can balance the load.
Even if it exploits the individual?
I agree that dynamic pricing can feel aggressive, but zoom out to the macro efficiency that this vast infrastructure enables. Look at urban mobility. AI-optimized transit schedules in Seoul actively reward commuter punctuality with micro discounts.
True.
The transit systems there are highly optimized.
Smart cities in Singapore use environmental sensors to dim streetlights on paths you frequent and immediately brighten them the second your gate is detected. It conserves massive amounts of energy while keeping you safe.
But think about what the AI needs to accomplish that. It needs you to be entirely predictable.
It needs to process chaos into order. To coordinate a modern city, we are talking about systems ingesting 100 terabytes of data daily. They use dimensionality reduction techniques like autoencoders.
Which compress the data.
Exactly. Imagine having to pack a massive overflowing closet into a single carry-on suitcase. An autoencoder is an AI technique that essentially vacuum seals the data. It strips away all the noise and variance, the random times you paused on the street to tie your shoe, and only keeps the absolute core shape of your daily habits.
And you think stripping away human variance is a good thing?
It compresses billions of chaotic human interactions into streamlined, predictable flows. That macro efficiency undeniably justifies the architecture.
But macro efficiency for the city means absolute predictability for the human. Let's unpack the math behind that suitcase analogy. To make that Singapore streetlight system work, or to preload your transit route, the AI uses things called hidden Markov models.
To predict the next state in a sequence.
Right, and engineers literally call it calculating habit stability. It calculates that 90% of your Tuesdays involve going to a specific gym in Berlin, and it preloads your environment accordingly. Or it uses LSTM networks, long short-term memory networks.
Which are designed to analyze sequences over time.
Exactly, they encode the temporal dependencies of your life. An LSTM network doesn't just know what you click, it knows when your focus fades.
Right.
It knows exactly what time of day you are most likely to abandon a shopping cart, or when you're most susceptible to taking a suggested detour. And here's the core problem. Efficiency requires predictability. The system abhors variance. It abhors spontaneity.
I wouldn't say it abhors it.
But it mathematically does. To achieve the perfect macro efficiency you're talking about, the AI has to mathematically bet that you will never change your routine. And when you do, it introduces friction to push you back into the predicted path. We become quantified metrics.
But we aren't completely helpless.
We think of manipulation as someone aggressively forcing us to do what we don't want. But the highest level of AI manipulation is engineering your environment so perfectly that what the algorithm wants actually feels like your own spontaneous idea.
I'm not convinced by that line of reasoning, mostly because it assumes the user is a passive victim, trapped in a maze, with no agency over the system. But we are not just data points. We are the architects of this machine.
Architects who don't understand the blueprints.
But the technological paradigm is actively shifting right now to return control to the user. We are seeing the massive rise of edge computing, where your data is processed locally on your phone's own chip before anything is ever uploaded to the cloud. We are seeing the deployment of federated learning.
Wait, let's be careful with that term, because federated learning sounds like a magic privacy shield, but it's important we explain what it actually does.
I'll explain it. Federated learning allows the AI to learn from the habits of millions of Tokyo commuters or Mumbai shoppers without ever centralizing their raw personal data. Think of it like reading a book.
Okay.
Instead of sending the actual book, your personal data, to the central server, your phone just sends a one-page summary of the plot. The global model learns the overarching pattern from millions of summaries, but your specific data, your identity, stays locked on your device.
In theory.
Furthermore, users have tangible tools today. They can mask their locations with VPNs. They can fragment their signals across multiple devices. And they are protected by increasingly robust legal frameworks. Regulations like Europe's GDPR or Brazil's LGPD mandate transparency. They force companies to explain their AI decisions. We hold the power to curate our digital footprint and dictate how these algorithms interact with us.
I hear the optimism, and I know the engineering behind federated learning is clever. But frankly, to the average person, this is an illusion of consent. Telling people they can use a VPN or read a buried privacy policy ignores the pervasive ambient nature of this infrastructure.
How is it an illusion if the data stays on your device?
Because incognito mode means absolutely nothing when your mere presence in physical space is being quantified.
But again, if the data is anonymized on the edge,
It doesn't need your name if it has your behavioral fingerprint. You cannot opt out of Times Square. You cannot opt out of smart billboards in Singapore that scan the dwell time of your gaze via high-definition cameras. You cannot opt out of environmental sensors measuring exactly how many seconds pedestrians linger near a retail display in Copenhagen.
but those systems are measuring aggregate flow. They aren't attaching your personal social security number to every glance.
The aggregate flow is exactly what manipulates you. Let's look at the actual utility functions, the mathematical equations driving this architecture. These equations literally discount your future engagement by your current impatience.
Which is just optimizing for the user's attention.
They bid on your impressions per engaged second. The system knows you have a post-lunch lull in a Brazilian office, so it saves its most potent notifications, its most precisely engineered nudges for that exact window of cognitive fatigue.
Right, timing is key.
This logic is too deeply embedded in the planetary infrastructure to be countered by downloading an ad blocker. You can't regulate away the fundamental business model of the attention economy, which treats human consciousness as a resource to be mined. By the way, if you're listening to this right now on a streaming app, an algorithm is literally measuring whether you skip forward or pause. You are participating in the exact hidden Markov model we are talking about right now.
And I would argue that participating in that model is precisely what provides the immense value. Treating human behavior as a quantifiable resource is exactly what allows us to solve problems that were previously insurmountable.
Surmountable at what cost, though?
Let's talk about preemptive care. By mapping these massive digital echoes, an AI can correlate search histories about, say, symptoms of fatigue with location data showing frequent pharmacy visits, and it can literally flag a chronic condition like diabetes weeks or months before a human doctor puts the pieces together.
That assumes the data is only used for healthcare.
But the predictive power that you see as an oppressive, deterministic cage is actually a safety net. During global crises, health apps anonymize mobility data to track and isolate epidemiological outbreaks in real time. If the cost of having an AI predict global food supply chain demands based on the weather app usage and crop yields of a farmer in rural India is that I am occasionally nudged to buy a specific brand of coffee or a pair of moisture-wicking socks, that seems like a profound, incredible bargain for humanity.
It's a bargain where you don't actually know what you've traded away until it's gone. Yes, predicting food supply chains or flagging early onset diabetes are noble, incredible applications. I agree with that.
Right.
But the exact same underlying architecture, the exact same latent space mapping, the same sentiment analysis is used to micro-target human vulnerabilities. The AI learns that a retiree in Florida fears economic instability.
Okay, yes, the advertising aspect.
It doesn't care why they fear it. It just knows that fear keeps them glued to the screen. So it bombards them with tailored content designed to amplify that anxiety. It detects high curiosity scores from erratic late-night browsing behavior and feeds those specific users disinformation. Why? Because the mathematical model predicts they will fall down a rabbit hole faster than a baseline user.
But that's an alignment issue, not an inherent flaw in prediction.
The machine does not distinguish between a nudge that reminds you to take your heart medication and a nudge that radicalizes your worldview. It only knows what maximizes engagement. It only knows what keeps the eye on the screen.
That is a profound challenge, certainly. It speaks to why we need rigorous alignment in how we design the utility functions you mentioned. But we have to step back and look at the totality of what this technology represents for our species.
Fair enough.
To summarize my position, AI is humanity's digital mirror. But it's not just passively reflecting. It is an intimate, actively optimizing portrait of our collective behaviors and desires. Yes, it requires our data, but when guided by transparent design and edge computing privacy, it powers unprecedented personalization. It democratizes access, bringing tailored educational models to remote areas and enabling climate modeling from global sensor nets. It is an infrastructure that, if we engage with it consciously, removes the friction of daily life and optimizes the human experience on a planetary scale.
And to summarize my stance, we have to be very careful with the mirror analogy. A mirror only reflects, it doesn't reach out and move your hand.
Right.
When our eye movements, our daily commutes, our deepest anxieties, and our heartbeat variability are quantified explicitly to engineer our choices, to perfectly time a notification to hit your dopamine receptors when you are most fatigued, we have crossed a dangerous threshold. We must recognize this algorithmic tide for what it is, a fundamental threat to human agency. We are quietly sacrificing our spontaneity, our variance, and our autonomy on the altar of systemic efficiency.
I think despite our deeply different reads on the ultimate impact of this technology, we do arrive at a shared agreement on one core truth. The sheer scale and influence of AI truly is the invisible hand of the digital age. It is operating constantly, quietly, from the remote fjords of Norway to the vast outback of Australia, processing the daily rhythms of human life into a continuous, unbroken stream of data.
That is undeniably true. The infrastructure is everywhere. It is in the steering wheel, the smart billboard, the streaming app, analyzing every swipe, every pause, every heartbeat.
Which brings us back to where we started. We are all driving on this invisible highway. The question for each of us isn't whether we can step off the road. That is increasingly impossible in the modern world. The question is whether we are consciously curating our daily lives or quietly being curated by the machine. We invite you to consider your own digital echoes today and decide who is truly holding the steering wheel.